Hello and welcome to today's episode of Football 101. Today we're going to be covering both Cover 2 and Cover 1 man coverages. Now last week we covered Cover 2 zone, and so if you missed that video, be sure and check it out because we're going to be comparing some of the techniques between Cover 2 zone and Cover 2 man. So let's start off by looking at Cover 2 man. Cover 2 man is a middle of field open coverage, and we know that because there are two high safeties splitting the field in half. Underneath, everyone is matched up in man coverage. We've got corners on wide receivers, we've got linebackers on tight ends and running backs, and sometimes you'll have a cornerback on a tight end or a running back, but every man is accounted for, and you have help over the top from the two free safeties. Now another version of man coverage is called Cover 1 man, sometimes called man-free coverage. This is a middle of field closed coverage because we have one safety over the middle of the field. And then we have a free defender, which is why it's sometimes called free man, this strong safety in this instance. And he can really do a lot of things. He can be used to bracket coverage. Say you have a really good tight end, you could have a linebacker and a safety bracketing that tight end. He can be in a zone over the middle of the field. He can be run support. He can be a blitzer. There's a lot of different ways that you can utilize that free man. Now remember our football adage, single high, let it fly. And so in this one high Cover 1 look, you're going to be more likely to pass the ball. With the Cover 2 man look, you're going to be more likely to run the ball because it is a weak box. Now, man coverage doesn't struggle with overload concepts like smash that we talked about last week. And that's because those are designed to put a defender in conflict and make him choose between the deep route and the shallow route. In man coverage, every defender has a man to cover. And so you're not going to be able to overload a side of the field. You're not going to be able to put corners in conflict. But it does struggle against mobile quarterbacks. This is because every defensive player will have his eyes on his receiver that he's supposed to cover, and so oftentimes if a quarterback can break contain, there's no one there to keep him, and so it can slow down your pass rush against a mobile quarterback because you have to drop a spy or you have to be really careful with your pass rush lanes. It's also difficult because on every play, every defender has to win their matchup against the receiver that they're matched up against. If he slips and falls down, or if he just gets beat, then that guy's going to be open. There's no help for him except for the deep safety help that we're talking about. So let's get into the coverages that we can play here. And so first, we want to look at the techniques of man coverage. And so the first technique we're going to talk about is press technique. Now notice the cornerback's outside foot is splitting the receiver because he wants to force an outside release. He doesn't want to give up the little slant route over the middle because that would be wide open. So he's got his foot splitting the middle of the receiver, and watch at the snap of the ball, he's going to shoot his inside hand up. He shoots that inside hand up to get hands on the receiver and to try to funnel him outside. Notice how he turns his back to the middle of the field, and now they're going to carry this route up the sideline. This is perfect press man coverage technique. Now let's compare that to a clip from last week's video, Cover 2 zone, and you'll notice here that at the snap of the ball, he's going to turn his back to the sideline. He's sinking and he's got his eyes on the quarterback. And that's one of the biggest differences between man and zone coverage is where the eyes are. And here they are, again, we'll run them side by side. Notice on the bottom of the screen in man coverage, we shoot that hand and our back is already turning to the quarterback. And at the top of the screen, we shoot the hands, but now our eyes are on the quarterback. So that's one of the biggest differences between Cover 2 man and zone. And you can see why zone would be better against mobile quarterbacks because his eyes are on the quarterback ready to react versus the bottom clip where there's no help if the quarterback breaks contain. Now, let's talk about the different types of releases that you can give. And so in this play, again, you'll notice here, outside foot splitting the receiver. He's going to try to force him inside, but this is also going to be man coverage in the slot, and you'll notice he's going to give an inside release and he's trying to funnel him to this safety that's over the middle of the field. So two different techniques for two different spots on the field. So let's watch first at the bottom of the screen, shoots the hand, pushes him up the sideline, And now let's watch the release out of the slot. The slot receiver is funneling to the safety over the middle of the field, and so notice he turns his back to the sideline and he's trying to force him to the middle of the field to where there's safety help. And so that's a difference in a technique where you're trying to force an inside versus an outside release. Now let's talk about press coverage versus squat coverage. And so at the top of the field, top of the screen, we're going to see press coverage. We're going to jam this receiver and try to push him outside. At the bottom, we're going to see squat coverage. This is where he's playing off of the receiver. Look at this cushion. This is a 3rd and 12. And he's going to squat. He's going to sit down in this area of the field where routes typically break, and he's going to wait to see what the receiver is going to do before he attacks. And so we watch here, and you notice that he just stays with the receiver here at the bottom of the screen. He sits down, he's backpedaling, and then he turns and runs once the receiver is past that typical area where a pass would break. Now it'll be a completion to the tight end, but that's not really what we're trying to look at here. Now let's talk about some ways that you can attack cover 2 man, man in general. Let's talk about some of the weaknesses. And so one of the weaknesses is against rub routes. We're going to see the Falcons here in cover 1 zone. They've got one safety over the top, and we've got man-to-man coverage across the board. And so the Eagles are going to motion in Dallas Goedert, and he's just going to run kind of a slant route. Really, it's just designed to get in the way of this Falcons defender, while Devonta Smith runs a wheel route over the top. And so when we roll the tape here, you're going to see this interference, this rub route, and it's just wide open. As soon as that corner runs into Dallas Goedert, that's an easy touchdown. Now you have to be careful with these not to draw pass interference. You have to look like you're trying to run a route. And so you see Goedert does a good job there. It's a good throw. That's an easy touchdown. Now let's watch another instance of a rub route. This time the Eagles are going to motion Quez Watkins across the formation, and the Broncos are going to push their coverage. That means that this linebacker is going to be on Quez Watkins, and so he's going to run a wheel route, and they're going to try to attack downfield again with a wheel route where you have a fast receiver against a linebacker. That should be an easy win, but the problem is the safety has seen this before, and he's going to react appropriately. And so we roll the tape here. We've got, now at this moment, this looks like this is going to be a win. We're attacking the inside. We're trying to draw this safety. We've got the wheel route. There's no way this linebacker can keep up. But for 2 reasons. One is going to be the pass rush. A man gets free and Hurts has to rush this throw. And then the second reason is that the safety flips his hips and gets over. This is going to become an interception. And so if we roll this back again, let's watch from right here. Watch the safety. See how he starts to take that step inside, and then he realizes what's happening, and he flips his hips, and he's going to get over the top. Now, if this rusher doesn't come free, there's a lot of room to throw this ball up the middle of the field. You can throw this and let your receiver just go get it. But because Hurts has to get the pass out quick, because of the pass rush, this is going to turn into an interception. So now let's talk about a couple more weaknesses of man coverage. The first is going to be bunch sets. And so we have a bunch down here to the bottom of the screen. This is really difficult for man coverage to deal with because there's so many people in such a tight space. It's hard to get hands on your guy. It's hard to not run into each other. And so the offense is relying on getting free releases out of this. The guy we're going to watch here is at the top of the screen. He's going to get an inside release, and this is just going to be the easiest touchdown you've ever seen. And so he gets the inside release, and already Hurts knows the middle of the field is going to be open. He hits the top of his drop and gets that ball out, and that's an easy touchdown to Devonta Smith. Now, another thing that is trouble for man coverage is snug sets. And so you're going to see this receiver motion across, and we've got these reduced splits. You've got the receivers compacted in tight at the line of scrimmage. And again, this is done to cause interference, make your defensive players run into each other. And so what we're going to see here, we're going to see motion, and we're going to see mesh, sit, wheel. We've got a mesh concept over the middle, and then we've got Dallas Goedert is going to sit, and really he's going to be targeting the corner that's defending this receiver, and then we've got a wheel route. So you've got a lot of things that can beat man coverage. A wheel route to a linebacker, you've got these dueling drag routes, this mesh concept, and we're going to see this defender get picked. So watch Dallas Goedert here at the top of the screen. He's looking right now. He's looking for this defender. He wants to run into him to get this guy open. It is going to work. and now the ball's out, there's a guy right there, and you can get a few yards. And it doesn't turn into a big play, but just an easy pitch and catch there off of that route. And so that's cover one and cover two man, some of the strengths and the weaknesses, some areas that you can target. And as always, the pass rush is key in any defense. As we saw on the interception play, if that pass rush doesn't come in and Hurts has more time to make that read, he could probably have a big play, maybe even a touchdown. But the pass rush is always key, and that's why teams prioritize elite edge rushers so much. I hope that helps you understand a little bit about cover one and cover two man coverage, how it stacks up against cover two zone, and sort of how they work off of each other. If you enjoyed this video, be sure you like and subscribe, turn on your notifications, and I will be back next week for another Football 101 video.